Good afternoon, everybody. This is David at Savvy Organics Farms. Today I wanted to show you one of the things that we do to control weeds, particularly between the beds in our gardens. You can use this safely around flower beds and between your rows. Just don't want to spray directly on your plants, but it's on your garden vegetable plants. But this is one of the things that we do to control the weeds between our rows and other areas we simply don't want those things to grow. So what we're using, let me show you this, is we buy a 30%, a 20% vinegar will work, but if you can get a 20 or a 30% vinegar, and we're going to spray that directly on the weeds that we want to knock down, and that will certainly do a good job of that. So I'm going to get it in both of these gallons into the sprayer and show you how we do it. So at the moment, before I get out there in the hot sun, I am in the shade. So we're going to fill up these 2-gallon sprayers with our vinegar. Now we use a dedicated sprayer when we spray the vinegar, so we really don't use the same sprayer for our fertilizers and things like that. But if you only have one sprayer, just be sure it's really well washed out after using vinegar or anything else that may harm your plants. So we'll get the vinegar put in. Now, the good thing about this, especially if you grow organically, is just that it is not a chemical that will hurt or damage anything else. It doesn't leave any residual pesticides or herbicides in foods. So safe to use and very effective. So I've got 2 gallons there in the sprayer. And the other thing I like to do, it's not necessary, but is I like to add just a little bit of Castile soap. And this one is, I believe, peppermint. So, oh, this one happens to be, yeah, hemp peppermint. So we're going to add just a little bit of that. Adding that to your mix will help ensure that the vinegar stays on and sticks to the leaves as long as possible. All right, so I'm going to get this guy pumped up and start spraying. I'll show you how we do that. All right, so I've got the sprayer pumped up. This particular sprayer is from Scott's, and it has multiple different patterns. So I like to set it on the wide one where it's sort of a fan spray, and then we're just going to spray those areas. And one of the things that makes this the most effective is doing it in the hot sun. Doing it in midday when there's no expected rain is the most effective time to spray this. So what the vinegar is actually doing is just severely burning the foliage off the plants. Helps dehydrate them. It'll kill a lot of them, but the ones that it doesn't kill, it will simply dehydrate and at least knock them down enough that they're not so much of a nuisance. So right now I'm just doing this little area along where one of our irrigation lines run. And I mentioned doing this when it's bright, sunny, and hot. Like right now here in Texas, it is just about 100 degrees. Not much in the way of wind, no rain expected. And I made the mistake not too long ago of doing this too late in the day. And believe it or not, we still have some days where we have a heavy dew. And when that happens, the heavy dew can also make this not nearly as effective. So again, doing it in the middle of the day when the day is at its hottest. So it's just a little area here where our irrigation lines run. I'll come back and do the center parts of these rows in a minute. But over where our tomatoes and things are, I want to show you how we do it between our rows where a lot of our plants are growing. So if you've watched our videos, you also know we put this shade cloth on our greenhouse, hoping that it would reduce the temperature in there. And so far, that's actually not the case. So it has not yet done much to reduce the temperature in there. I think yesterday when it was like 100, 101 outside here, it was the same or more in the greenhouse. I think our hottest temperature in the greenhouse yesterday was like 112. So just simply too hot. Even the shade cloth is not really helping with that. So between our rows, just want to coat the plants. We've got a lot of lovely tomatoes growing out here. Really looking good. The plants are nice and healthy. We've got our drip irrigation there. So these guys are looking good. But I can safely spray with this wide angle sprayer between the rows, and it will do a great job of knocking down, if not killing, these weeds. We'll come back when we come back in just a little while. I bet after these have been coated, a lot of this will already be very wilted and not looking very good. So again, I'm just using some 20 to 30% vinegar with a little bit of soap added to help it stick and be more effective. And we can safely weed between our rows with that, especially here where our soil in between is still really hard clay. This is an effective way to do it. Most of the hose and things are simply not penetrating the soil well enough to be effective. So a couple more tips for using the vinegar to suppress and knock down weeds in your home garden and flower beds. One is when you're opening and closing your sprayer to add or clean it, to add more vinegar or any other solution, be sure you relieve the pressure off of it before you open it, or open it carefully with your face and eyes away. The vinegar will burn your eyes, it will burn your skin, just like the damage it's going to cause to these plants. It will do that to your eyes and to your skin. So another thing to keep in mind, this is not a systemic weed killer. They can grow back, but the more often and the more that it's treated, the less likely it is for it to recur, to come back. And the more often you do it, the less of the vinegar solution you're gonna have to use. So be careful when you're using it. Apply it carefully. Don't get it in on your skin or in your eyes when you're working with it or opening your sprayer. So just a few more tips there for you. Hey guys, so I thought I'd take a minute. It's been about an hour and 15 minutes later. I want to show you the results spraying with the vinegar to kill the weeds between our rows. So as you might remember, this is where we started on between the rows. And look how all of these grasses and weeds and things that are between our rows are now, pretty burned up, and they will continue to die as the sun just bakes these weeds between the rows. We also like to flame weed. The issue is that flame weeders will often damage. You can see right here we've damaged this by flame weeding between here in the past. So those weeds were nice and bright and green. They are all done. So that'll keep them cleaned up and keep our gardens and our rows looking nice and tidy. And be careful when you're out in the wind. Sorry, it's extremely hot and dusty. So be careful when you're out and you're spraying also that the vinegar doesn't get out in or spray in the wind and damage any of your plants. So we've got blackberries, look at those guys. Time for a snack. I love walking around outside and just picking up food to eat. So you'll also remember that we started right here and went down this water line where it goes between the rows. So between these rows you can see that I didn't spray and the weeds are still nice and green. So I'll get the rest of these done in another day or two, but it's 100 degrees and I'm exhausted. So anyway, we've got all of these taken care of and got a few more rows to do, but the vinegar did a nice job of burning up all of this unwanted foliage on the rows that we were able to do and between the rows. So here's one I did. Here's a good comparison, so you can see the foliage dying in this row compared to the foliage and the grass and weeds in that row. My wife's flowers are sure looking pretty, growing very well. So, oh, there's Mr. Happy Bee for our bees. All our pollinators are out doing their job. These flowers are looking awesome. All right, so one last update. It's a couple of days later, and I wanted to show you the results. So, using the vinegar, I apparently on a couple of bell peppers, some overspray, and it burned the bell peppers. But worse, on the green beans, you see the edge of this row of green beans has been burned by the vinegar as well. So have to be super careful not to get it or not to let any of the mist from those get onto those plants. But it's an effective weed killer, but at the same time, you got to be really careful about where you use it. Make sure there's no wind that's going to put that mist up against your plants, and because it will damage them. So anyway, hope you found that helpful. We will see you on the next video. Thanks.